Okay, we want to factor this expression, which means we've got to find the factor of each, well, the factor that's common to all the expressions. So what do they all have in common? Well, this one doesn't have x as a factor. Neither of these two has a number as a factor. So the best you're going to do is y as a factor. Now, you can't use y to the 6th because y to the 6th isn't a factor of this expression. No, and of course it's not a factor of this one either. Y cubed is not a factor of this expression. So the greatest common factor is y. Okay? Again, x is not a common factor. There's no x here. There's no number that's a common factor. Greatest common factor is just y. So we could write this as y times some expression. Now factoring is just distributive law backwards. So whatever we write here, if multiplied by y, has to give us this. Well, what would we multiply by y to get 4x to the 5th, y to the 6th? It should be clear. Multiply y by 4x to the 5th, y to the 5th, then we're going to get a y to the 6th, aren't we? Okay? And what would we multiply by y to get this expression? Well, it'd just be plain old negative x squared, right? And minus x squared. And what we multiply by y to get y cubed? Well, that's obviously y squared. That's all there is to this one. Now, let's say we have x squared. So we have this. What's this equal? Well, we're going to factor out the biggest terms we could. And let's say we got a 2 in front of this. So we can see that every number here is a multiple of 2, right? So we're going to be able to factor out a 2 for sure. And what about x? Well, x to the 5th, this one doesn't contain an x to the 5th. It only contains an x squared. And of course this contains an x cubed. We can't factor out x cubed because, again, the biggest power of x we've got is x squared. Smallest power of x we got is x squared, and that's the biggest power we can factor out. So we factor out x squared. We understand that we're going to be able to get 3 terms, each of which, when multiplied by x squared, is going to give us the right power of x. And then what have we got on y? Well, the smallest power of y we got is a cube. And that's really what we look for. Because if we had a y to the 6th here, it wouldn't be anything to multiply by this that would give us a y cubed, unless we want to do a negative power, and we're not doing that. Okay? Okay, so we have this. So what now? What would we multiply by 2x squared y cubed to get 4x to the 5th, y to the 6th? Well, we're going to have to multiply by 2 in order to get 4, right? So we're going to have a 2. And we've got an x squared. To get an x to the 5th, we need another x cubed. We have y cubed. To get a y to the 6th, should have a y cube here. This multiplied by this will give us this. Then, we got a 2, we need a -6, we better have a -3. This 2 times -3 will give us a -6. We've already got x squared, so we don't need any more x's. Then we've got y to the 4th. We want to get y to the 4th. We've got y cubed, so all we need is a y. Multiply -3y by 2x squared y cubed, I get -6x squared y to the 4th. And then plus what? Well, we've already got 2, so we don't need a number here. We've got x squared, we want to get x cubed, so we're going to need x. And we've already got y cubed, we don't need a y. And look, I made my parentheses way too far out there, didn't I? Well, I wanted to give myself enough room because I usually squeeze things too close. But just to make it look a little neater. There we have it. That's all there is to it. Now let me note that your homework in this section, and most of you did real well in the homework. Let's just do this. So the question I ask is, why were you able to do this in the homework, but a lot of you weren't able to do it here? Okay? I'm not suggesting there's anything wrong with you. I'm not suggesting that you've done anything evil. But somehow what you did on the homework didn't transfer what you did in class today. Okay? Now some of you did it fine, but many of you did not do this. And of course, not everybody did the homework. And if you did do the homework, you pretty much didn't get these. Okay? So, you need to think about how to approach the homework so that you'll be able to come in and perform on a quiz on the same stuff. It's a very typical type problem you would have encountered in your homework. And so it is. So think about it. You might want to, for example, make yourself notes and review the note before you come into class. Okay, here's how I factor, or even, you should be writing out your work. If you're not writing it out, then you're much less likely to retain it. If you're just doing it on the computer, that's not a good place to do your homework. You answer on the computer, you should be writing it out, okay? And if you're doing every problem, well, you can't do every problem with a video in front of you, because some of the problems don't have videos. So apparently you're remembering what you saw in the videos, what you did in the previous problems well enough to do the problems that don't have videos. But you're not making the transfer to class, and if you don't make the transfer to class, you're not going to make the transfer to an upcoming test. Okay? We're just getting into intermediate algebra. Started it last week. Everything else has been elementary algebra. Which is not even supposed to be part of this course, but I knew it was going to be necessary. You should be pretty well primed with the elementary algebra, and some of you certainly are, and most of you I think are. We're getting into the intermediate algebra, and you really need to be focusing on what it takes to pass this course, get it satisfactory, so you go on and do the pre-calculus and the support course in the spring, if that's what, okay? And it's really necessary for you to do that. We've got not quite 2/3 of the semester to do the whole ball of wax for intermediate algebra as it applies to pre-calculus, okay? So you really want to up your performance a little bit in most cases. Some of you are doing pretty well, and some of you are doing okay. But if you're not performing on the quizzes, it's because you're not getting what you need from the homework, okay? That's, of course, why we do it and why we go over this stuff. But, really what I want to do today is anticipate the things you have for homework next time, instead of spending a lot of time on these things. I mean, I'll spend the time in whatever's necessary, But the less time I have to spend on talking about what you needed to learn from your homework, the more time I'm going to have to help prepare you for the next assignment. And of course, the videos and stuff and the open math materials, you might not need much from it. I hope not, because you're not getting that much in advance, okay? Because we're just having to spend a lot of time talking about stuff that people, for some reason, did well on when they did the homework, but doesn't transfer to the class, okay? Just think about that. Think about what it would take. And the number one thing I would say is, be sure you're writing it out because you'll retain it better. And then do at least a 5-minute review of what you wrote out before you come into class so that you're prepared to do these things. Now, here, I said use a special product. Well, it's a little challenging. You know, I threw some curves at you. And I think I had some negative exponents in here, didn't I? Yeah, I had negative A and negative B on this one, so that would be a -4 and a -5. This thing printed out way too small between my eyes, and you know, I still don't wear glasses. Need to, I guess. And the glare from the lights, I didn't see the negative signs, but I remember putting them there. Okay, so we've got this. Now, this could throw you, and as I say, most people use the distributive law to do that. And that's the first thing you got to know. So I'm real glad that people know how to use the distributive law. If you did, not everybody did anything on this that was what you really needed to do. But many of you did. So if you did the distributive law and did it more or less correctly, then I'm pretty well pleased. If you thought it was just the square of this minus the square of this, that's a common illusion. It looks like it ought to be that way, but squaring doesn't distribute through addition or subtraction. Put that magnet there so when I hit it with my hand, I don't hit the sharp edge of the metal. Turned out the magnet feels about like the sharp edge of the metal. That doesn't do any harm. Okay, so there we have it. Now what are we going to do for a special product? Well, there's one special product, and it was the same special product you use in every problem in the homework, because that's the only special product that occurred in the homework. The special product is the one we did in class last time, a plus b squared is a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. Not a squared plus b squared or a squared minus b squared. You got that 2ab in there. And if you did what we did in class last time or review what we did in class, the videos there, you know why there's a 2ab there. Okay, in this case, a is your 4x to the 5th, y to the 6th. B is your -5x to the -4th, y to the -5th. As I say, I threw a lot of curveballs at you in this with the negative exponents and the minus sign and stuff like that. So there are reasons you might have a problem, but I saw that people were making, you know, anywhere from high 80s to hundreds, mostly hundreds, on the homework. So I reasonably expected you understand how to do the special product, right? So if you came in, didn't know how to do the special product, and did the homework, which most of you did, again, think about how to transfer it. Think about how to get it from what you do just to get the points, which don't count as heavily as the tests, and prepare yourself for things really going to largely determine your grade. So, and the intermediate step there is to be prepared for the quizzes. It's going to be much like the homework, you see, as they have them. Okay, so anyhow, I've been raving more about that than showing you the mathematics, but it's important. Okay, so again, nobody uses special product, even though the product problem said use the special product, expand this, okay? You know, be sure you read the problems carefully, because if it says use a special product, that's what it means. Of course, if you use the distributive law, I'm well impressed if you do that correctly. Again, that's good. But it's not what we were looking for here either. Okay, so this is going to be the square of this is going to be a squared plus 2ab plus b squared, where a is this and b is this. So that's going to be 4x to the fifth y to the sixth squared minus 2 times 4x to the fifth y to the sixth times negative 5x to the negative fourth y to the negative fifth plus negative 5x to the negative fourth y to the negative fifth quantity squared. Now this is just clerical. If you have the special product, you just identify A and B and plug in. Okay? Then you simplify. Squaring this, well, that's 4 squared times x to the fifth squared times y to the sixth squared. And then it's minus, well, minus 2 times 4 is negative 8 times negative 5 is plus 40. Check my arithmetic. So our numbers here multiply out to 40, so we're going to get a plus 40. Then we're going to get x to the fifth times x to the negative fourth, which is x to the 5 plus negative 4. And I don't write that as 5 minus 4, I write it as 5 plus negative 4 to emphasize that we're adding these exponents. You know, that is, of course, 5 minus 4, but when you're dividing, sometimes you subtract exponents, and you want to be careful that you write it down as literally as possible according to the rules for multiplying two numbers with the same base with different exponents. Okay, then you have y to the sixth plus negative 5. And then it's plus negative 5 squared, x to the negative fourth squared, y to the negative fifth squared. Then 4 squared is, I'm going to write according to the rules, 16 times x to the 2 times 5 times y to the 2 times 6, because when you take a power of a power, you multiply powers, plus 40, x, well, now it's 5 minus 4, and it's y to the 6 minus 5. Okay, you're going to have 25 from squaring negative 5. X to the negative 4 squared. You multiply the 2 by the negative 4. Get the exponent y to the 2 times negative 5. And then it's just a matter of doing the simple arithmetic. There you have it. Okay. Now that's about as complicated an expression with the special product that you're likely to encounter. But be sure you understand every one of these steps and apply them carefully. On a test, you want to write these things out as thoroughly as possible. Okay.